Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen workshop for the budget. And it is April 18th. It is 5:32 p.m. I'll turn this over to Finance. Ms. Tanya?
Good evening. My format will be very similar to last week, except this week we're going to be discussing the 413 fund as well as the other smaller funds. As well as last week with our operating budget, we did increase the funds across the board for increasing health costs, fuel costs. Right now in the budget, the wages are increased by 3% or one step, and we did budget for the 457 match. What we're going to talk about on my end will only be operating. We will address the capital items afterwards. So I'm just going to start with Fund 121, and we're going to go through them in order. In the revenue and the Fund 121 State Street Aid, we did increase our state gasoline and motor fuel by $50,000. That's based on prior and current year trends for the revenue, and that was the only change we really made in that. If you'll move over to the expense side of 121, you'll see that we did increase street lighting, object code 247 to $325,000. That was just an increase in the cost of the electricity. We increased object code 268 for repair and maintenance road to $900. That is for the increased cost of paving. The rest was pretty much the same.
Does 264, do we need to budget anything for that, or is that just primarily resulting from insurance payments from where people are hitting the guardrails? I know in the past we really weren't doing insurance claims on them, but now Andrew has Toya doing those left and right, so.
We don't have enough history to know what to budget for a guardrail repair every year because we haven't tracked it that way. We just started tracking it that way this fiscal year, so, in the future we may break out and reduce the repair and maintenance on road, which and increase the guardrail. And we would also add the revenue line for the insurance proceeds at that time.
Okay.
We just wanted to track the guardrail this year, so it was very obvious what we were spending just on guardrails, so we'll have that history. Fund 122, Senior Citizens. No significant changes on the revenue, pretty much the same as last year. Same with the expenses for the Senior Citizen Fund, pretty much the same as last year. In our drug fund, Fund 123, revenue, very similar to last year, no significant changes. Same for their expenses, no significant changes in the drug fund expenses. Moving on to Fund 126, our Equitable Sharing Fund. If you'll notice, I just want to point out in our cash in bank balance, you'll see the difference between the revenue for 21 and 22, and 22 and 23 was fairly significant. That was due to, on January 24th, we received a payment of $242,478.36 for a joint drug seizure case that we did in Miami, Florida in 2017, and we finally received payment on that. So that's why you'll see the significant change in the bank balance for Fund 126 revenue.
And we've talked about that for years when that would be paid.
No significant changes in expenses for the equitable sharing account. Moving on to 127, our stormwater fund. No significant changes to revenue for this year. In our expenses for 127, all of it was fairly consistent with last year. We did put $300,000 in object code 920 for the building, which is for the engineering cost for the Public Works building. The rest of the expenses are fairly the same, unless you have any questions. No questions. We'll move on to Fund 311, which is our State Street Aid. I'm sorry, Streets Capital. Revenue stayed the same. We do not have any expenses in yet because majority of this is capital, and we'll fill this in when we get through the capital and see what we approve for that. It'll be the same for the 313 Parks Capital Project. Revenue stayed the same. We'll put in our expenditures for our capital items when we get those approved. On our 321 Police Impact Fund, you'll see we did budget more in our impact fees. The impact fee revenue was trending up, and we had also increased the impact fee rate, so that would account for the increase in the revenue, and that was the only significant thing.
Can I ask you a question? You're saying that the rate, the percentage is going up on what we've been collecting?
It's trended upward.
No, I mean, I thought I heard her say that they were gonna change the rate.
No, we cannot change that rate. We're maxed out on police and fire.
But we had,
Yeah.
we had increased it last year or year before.
We did. It was year before last.
It just shocks me when you're talking about increasing an impact fee that I have to get to Intergov, and Phyllis, you can understand why.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Sorry to bother.
Yeah. This is from prior year, you know, we're now seeing those trending from that rate increase.
Any other questions on that one?
We have to vote on that, correct?
We did 2 years ago.
I know, but if we do it again, we have to vote on it again.
Yeah, the only ones we can do is currently roads and parks.
Right.
Everything else we have to have a new study on.
Correct.
We have to have a new study?
Because we're already maxed out on fire and police impact fees. So if we want to increase those, we have to redo the study on those.
I didn't know that. All right.
Okay. Our Fund 322, which is our Fire Impact Fund, no significant changes in revenue or expenses on that. Moving on to our 413 Water and Sewer Fund. We increased our metered water sales just by the trends were going up, so we increased that a little bit. No significant changes other than that, unless you have any questions on that.
Is the, for the Tower Co., is that the one that, with the contract that we can incrementally raise every year or so?
I've not had a chance to look at that yet, to see what is in that contract.
First one.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
If we can look that over, because if I remember right from where we looked at it last year, we hadn't touched it for years.
This one is the one at the water treatment plant.
That sounds about right then, yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, moving on to expenses. Start with the water treatment plant. The only significant change we did was line 259, other professional services, and that was just our regular increase for the Infomark fee. No other significant changes. Okay, moving on to our sewer maintenance. I just wanted to bring your attention to line 266. You might notice that last year we budgeted 84,000. This year we only have 20,000. The reason before that is last year we had budgeted 80,000 for maintenance for the Fergus Road pump station, which we won't need to budget for this year. You might also notice on the next page, in our chemical line, line 322, there was a significant increase, and that's just basically due to pricing increases for our chemicals.
And as always, depreciation is there.
Okay, moving on to our water maintenance. On line 320, our operating supplies, we did increase that budget, and we increased it by 500,000. We plan to replace plus or minus 2,000 meters this year, And that was what the $500,000 increase was. Questions on that? Okay. In our water billing and collection, there was no significant changes at all in this department. And then, of course, we have our bond cost on the very last page, and those run pretty much the same. Any questions?
So that should cover water, sewer, and stormwater. Kyle, are you taking ARPA?
Can.
He sounded real excited about that, didn't he?
You're more versed in these projects than just about anybody.
As far as ARPA, I've got, or you should have a couple of sheets up there that I put down. One of them is just 2 sheets, the 8.5 by 11. The second sheet will have some, I don't know if that's tan color, whatever it is, oranges. But basically, on the front of that sheet, you'll have a breakdown of the ARPA. I tried to explain a little bit where the funds come from and what led to it. And then basically the second little paragraph you can see is it's basically we'll receive $10,597,000 straight from the U.S. Treasury, and then we're eligible for almost 3.5 million from TDEC that they're going to do like a grant. So we've already spent in the next box down $601,000 for the premium pay for employees, and then $7,500 we spent for an air cleaner system at the police department. So at the bottom of that first page, there is a total that shows you what the funds were that we received straight from the federal government and what we're going to receive from TDEC. Of course, TDEC's not given us approval as far as contracts to move forward yet. We have received word back from them that they did receive our submittal back in, I think it was end of November, but they have approved what projects we submitted to TDEC, and we are waiting on the contracts that should come in any day. It may be the next couple of weeks, don't know. Just as soon as we get them, we'll bring them forward for y'all to see at the Mayor Alderman workshop and the meeting to vote on. So pretty much on the second sheet, the top portion is the federal projects, and then the bottom portion is going to be the TDEC projects. So on this top portion, basically, as you can see, we've got estimates of contracts totaling about little over 12 and a half. We only have 10, so I mean, the water sewer fund will have to pay for the rest of it, but that'll show you as we start paying for these projects. I will keep track of that and probably give you this quarterly. That way y'all can see that the money is being spent, because back to the first page, you've got to have the money obligated by December 31st of 2024, and it's got to be spent by December of 2026. So there is a time frame on this, so I just want to keep y'all informed that we are spending the money. That way it doesn't expire on us and we don't use it. The first two, item 1 on the second sheet is the Cheney Woods Interceptor. That project, as you know, has started. It's over behind Walmart right now at Heritage Valley Park area. So we've spent about a little over $1 million to date on that project. And then Industrial Boulevard Water and Sewer Extension, that's the water and sewer extension down to the BJ's area. That project is basically done, but as you can tell, we still got a little bit on it. So those are the projects that we have spent the ARPA funds on to this point. So, like I say, going back to the front sheets, you can see that we've got remaining funds out of the federal funds of roughly 7.37. And if you see anything on this sheet that you want revised or changed or added to it, just let me know. I'll try to get that added. And like I say, I'll give this out probably at Mayor Alderman workshops, maybe quarterly or something. That way y'all can have a good idea of what projects are going and being spent as far as this money is concerned.
Kyle, what are you thinking for the timeframe for the Blair Road project to start? Because I know they're about to start some significant construction on several residential areas.
You talking about just the Blair Road?
The Blair Road 12-inch
Blair
water
West?
line.
Water line.
Oh, the water line? I don't have a good idea on it yet.
Okay, and then this one's either for you or for Danny, because I know he likes questions. But the tube settlers, I know the last time I was over at the water treatment plant, those were in need of some work. So I see it's not started here, but any ETA as to when it's going to get started?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was saying earlier. The TDEC, the way they're doing it is by a grant. So we had to do a scorecard, and do an application process, submit all that information. They would review everybody's, when I say everybody, it's all jurisdictions in the state, and get back with us. So we have had those meetings, and they did say that the 3 projects we have listed, they were fine with. It's just that we've got to wait till they get us contract documents for those, since they're treating it as a grant. So these will be reimbursable. The city will have to pay these projects as an upfront cost, and then we will submit to TDEC for reimbursement, kind of like what we do on TDOT projects.
Okay, so are we waiting for approval from them before we get started, or are we just waiting on our own processes?
We are waiting on the tube settlers, basically to get that contract. Now, the contract will be just for construction, but it shouldn't take Griggs and Maloney more than a month or 2, probably as long as they meet with Danny to spec out what needs to be changed as far as getting plans and then get it to the state.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought they were very, very important on some of this list stuff. So
Yeah,
if you do
we'll
it-
probably have Griggs and Maloney present y'all a proposal, either, it won't be the next meeting, but the meeting in June is when we'll probably get you a proposal from them to do the design and stuff, and then, of course, that way we can move forward with the
So
construction.
if you go ahead and try to get it started and doing it, any money that the city spends, it'll come back.
We can't do construction. Yeah, we can do the design piece of it, but we cannot start any of the construction on these projects until we get approval through these grants.
I got you.
Contracts in place.
Okay. Any other questions about the ARPA and TDEC funding, these projects? Okay. Anything else for tonight, Bruce?
Yes, sir. If we can go back through the capital again. If you'll look for this sheet that I handed out to everybody, there's a revised copy I handed out tonight. If you'll go to page 3 of that document, it starts with the State Street aid. And this is all of the capital items, or, smaller projects, you can call them smaller, for all of these different funds that are being proposed. So State Street aid is obviously where we do our road paving every year. So Dietz has submitted the 3 streets listed there: Waldron Road from Thornton's to Industrial, Stones River Road from the roundabout to Murfreesboro Road, and then east near Schreibman from 73rd Avenue to the KFC. So those are the 3 that he has planned for this next fiscal year. You see the total cost there is $627,000. That's with striping, of course. Any questions about these streets that Michael can probably answer?
That piece of road from there up to KFC, that's a hot mess.
Yes, sir, it absolutely is. It needs to be addressed, and that's what we're hoping to do. I would like to just add to kind of what Bruce said. Please keep in mind, this number is kind of hard to have a firm estimate because it depends on when actual paving takes place and what the oil index is doing and so on and so forth. So this could change up or down. As past trends, it'll probably go up, but this just depends on when actual paving takes place.
So, Michael, these are the top 3 roads that need work done, in your opinion, correct?
Yes, sir, correct. Based off previous complaints and as well as just tying in other projects to these. So the thought process behind it is Stones River Road, once we get the 24-inch water line installed, that road will be paved. That will continue that paving on out from the roundabout up to Murfreesboro Road. Same thing with Waldron Road from the eastbound ramp to Industrial. Essentially, Thornton's just made those improvements there at Charter Place. This will expand that on out to Industrial. And then East near Strivman is just falling apart, as Vice Mayor just mentioned.
I've hit 73rd and KFC quite a bit.
Yep.
So it is very rugged, and I know I just let Doug know about a new pothole over there.
Yes, sir.
No matter how much you are fixing it, it's coming right back.
It shows right back up, yes, sir. So the goal is hopefully try to get some monies coming in early and get these paved early in the fiscal year.
Have they stopped the construction, or no more construction is planned on those townhomes down there? I think that's what tore up a lot of it, was the construction
On the townhomes on East near Streetman, I
on
think
this
that
side, the big
work,
tall ones.
I think that work is complete. Now, there is another development that's gonna take place in the near future, a live work. I know that the developer has already submitted plans, I believe, to planning on that. So when that's gonna be built, I'm not sure, but that has been approved through planning, I believe.
Won't that go through the KFC parking lot, though, if memory serves?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think they connected on each end, the KFC parking lot and then where the townhomes currently are.
Yeah.
I
So
thought- I
most of your
thought they
traffic
did.
would probably come back out to Murfreesboro Road, but there is a possibility that some truck traffic, depending on GPS and how it takes them, could send them back out Stones River.
Well, if they have not started before, or by the time you get that area
Yep.
repaved, let's get some photos, just so that we have
Okay.
new road conditions recorded. That way, if through their construction material, they damage the road, we know who we can go back to and say, hey, you
Yep.
damaged this, we know this was in this condition beforehand, because we talked
Absolutely.
about that for some of the other projects.
Yeah, definitely a good idea.
And then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say 24, the overpass just absolutely needs it. You can't see the lines. There's lots of potholes over there, and the road just looks in poor condition, so.
When something like that happens and you've got pictures and videos and you 100% got everything going, has the city had much success in getting those companies to fix that stuff?
Say if you have a bond.
You have
but
a
if-
bond set in
yeah.
place, yeah, that they would have to pay. In my 1-year tenure being on this side, I haven't had any dealings with that yet, so
And they
it'd
haven't
be difficult to
really-
answer.
Gone aggressively at that stuff, kind of like with the guardrails and other things.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, just, success rate.
Yeah, I think like Kyle mentioned, if we identify that and take pictures before and after, we can prove without a doubt that they damaged the property, we can hold their bond up until it's repaired.
I like it.
Now, there's a hole coming back up on 24 on Waldron going to 24 again.
Okay?
It's,
At Charter,
no, at,
Ramp.
on the ramp.
and that's, yes, ma'am, and that's the portion that we're looking to pave here, so.
So from Waldron to 24.
Oh, no, onto the ramp, that's TDOT's
That's-
responsibility, and
Okay.
we have notified them on a few others, they've responded, come out and passed them. Now that you've brought that to my attention, I'll reach out to them again tomorrow and let them know, is that eastbound or westbound?
You're going westbound.
Westbound,
Into
okay.
Nashville.
Okay,
And the concrete is starting to break again also.
Okay.
So there's like 2 different spots.
It's in that same spot we talked about, right, where it's transitioning from the ramp to the actual paving.
yep, yes, sir.
It's right there. I've not seen them come out and fix it since
Okay.
we originally spoke.
Okay, we'll
It's-
reach out to them again,
It's been a while.
okay.
Anything else?
One thing I want to point out is in the budget for State Street aid, there is a total of $900,000 set aside for paving, but please keep in mind that's not just for paving. There's other costs that come out of there as well. And I'll talk to Tanya more about this. The street lighting, that dollar amount should go down with the LED lights that we've just put in. So we'll have to figure out what that may go to. So that may give us some additional funding there for street paving or whatever other needs in that fund. So we'll have to figure that part out.
And Bruce, we had asked Deets to postpone paving till spring if possible. It'd be up to the board. Because we did take an extra amount out of the State Street aid for some paving this spring. We'd like to have a little bit of time for that cash to build back up. And we talked to Deets and told him, that if he could let us get that replenished by early spring, February, March, that we should be okay for paving. That doesn't mean we can't do some small stuff in the fall if we have to, if we need to. But because we did take a big hit this year, and our balance is going to be down around $1 million at the end of the year, we'd like to see that postponed if possible.
So we got $900,000 in a paving account, but it goes for other stuff like what?
Well, there's salt for one thing. That's probably the biggest thing other than
Guardrails.
Guardrails, yeah.
guardrails.
That's the other
That's true.
expense.
That's true. So there's a few things that, anything when it comes to road maintenance is really what goes in that line item.
Probably pothole patch, maybe.
Yep, which we have a line item in our operating as well, but if we use that up, we defer it back.
And Mike, just so you know, I don't mean to put you on the spot. If we do pothole patch on Murfreesboro Road, would you let Tanya know? Because we can bill the state for that.
Yep, absolutely, yes, ma'am.
So we patched the potholes on Murfreesboro Road and TDOT pays for it?
Reimbursed for the maintenance.
Good.
So be sure to
They
report.
also reimburse us for litter pickup and mowing.
They pretty good about getting it back to us?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We bill them on a monthly basis and they turn it around in a couple of weeks. Pay us right back. It's not much, but it's like $4,000 a year.
A lot faster than putting up a red line, ain't it?
And Phyllis, if I heard you right, you said you wanted Deets to go ahead and do that paving July 1st?
Mayor,
She said
you're getting March and May, March and July mixed up.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, if we go to page 4, this is the Senior Citizens Fund. David, I'll let you talk about the senior center.
Yes, they requested, actually, the building needs a new roof, so this was a quote for a metal roof. I'm sure that would have to go out for bid. $35,000 is in the budget for that. That would be a metal roof over their existing structure, the building, and the shed, so it'll cover all of it.
Do they have any leaks currently, or is it just age of the?
I don't think they have any leaks. Well, let me take that back. They do have some kind of over the kitchen area, kind of like where the ridge cap has kind of separated a little bit, so the water blows in. There was some leaks over the lean-to part of it, but I think our crews took care of that pretty much several months ago. So there is a few leaks, sporadic, but with the age of that roof, yeah, it just needs to be replaced.
So David, just to back up a little bit about the paving, when that gets done, can whoever does the striping, can we make the parking spots like a foot wider?
Yeah, I don't know, I guess they have to be a standard size, that, Randolph, is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we hold others accountable to that requirement, so, I mean, they can go to the max of what, or meet the minimum, they can go to maximum of whatever they choose to go to, but there is a minimum.
So, yeah, I think they can, if you want to make them wider, that should be
They
fine.
hard, the
Yep.
seniors are hard on a next door vehicle.
Yeah, the only concern I'd have is how many spaces do you lose if you make it wider? Because that would be the only thing I'd be concerned with, but if you got plenty of spaces, there should be fine to make them wider.
You know, because you can look at the zoning too, there's probably some minimum number of spaces to have for that use as well, so that's another standard we hold others accountable to.
Any other questions about the parking lot or the roof?
And just so you guys know, they requested to get a quote on an extension of their building a little bit. Wanted to kind of knock the end out, going into what used to be the impound lot a little bit. We didn't bring that before you guys because the cost was astronomical, well over $200,000 for an initial quote. That was not including design plans. To gain that little bit of space, we didn't think that would be even feasible to present to you guys. Almost $230,000.
Those people already come back with the estimate?
Yeah, yes, sir, we had an estimate that afternoon.
Really?
Of course, it was a ballpark figure, so it wasn't really specific because we didn't have any drawings to just go off of. That was just word of mouth of what we wanted, pushed out and added onto, and at that cost, we would have felt bad to bring that before you guys. But it's out there now, so it's $230,000.
So you better be hustling at the yard sale, that's what he's saying.
I got you.
Well,
I
and for
know
this-
that.
For the space they were gonna gain, I don't think it would be worth it. I think we could probably do a little remodeling in-house maybe. And that would be, they have that one door on the front side of the building that they don't use. I don't know if it's a requirement to keep that usable or if we could kind of box that space in and knock those walls out and create a little bit bigger storage space inside. If the door doesn't get used and they have more exit doors, I don't know if it's a requirement that we keep that door functionable.
I think that, I think that door is like a safety issue, people coming in and out of it way up there. I don't know, but I do know the center is growing. We're getting new people all the time, new seniors, and they just need a place to come to. I do know it's expensive to make that happen. Hopefully with the FEMA building, that'll help for a little relief.
Any other questions? Bruce?
All right, if you go to page 5, this is the Stormwater Control Fund. There's a couple requests there. Gary, you want to talk about those?
Candy.
All right, one of our inspectors, Scott Warwick, presently has a not extended cab pickup truck. And inspectors, they're going around with these big old rolls of plans. And I do ride-alongs as part of my job, and there's not room for me and the plans. So I took a look at that. His present truck is a 2009, has over 103,000 miles on it. So it might be a good time to go ahead and trade that in. So this is actually a replacement. And so trade that in while it still has some value and get him something that is better for an inspector. The skid steer, last time we took it into Thomas, he told us that the fuel pan was beginning to rust out. So I talked to Scott Anderson about that. We did some research. That was bought in 2006, and it's on its last legs. It's going to start costing a whole lot to maintain that thing. So those are the two recommendations. Y'all have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, the other item out of stormwater is the fund balance items for the construction and other things needed for the Public Works Community Development Services Facility. Next page is Parks Capital Projects Fund. David, once again, I'll turn it to you.
See the rehab of the walking trail? That was actually in this year's budget. Price came back higher than what was budgeted for. I think we had $100,000 in there. So we switched that over to do the front of Veterans Park, which they have completed this week. Should be done striping either late this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. So we're gonna filter the walking trail into next year's budget, as long as replacing the workout station and the surfacing up at the front of the park. I think it's probably original to the park. It definitely needs some attention. That $85,000 you see there, that price is good through November. That was on a the purchasing program. I don't know if it's NJPA now or what they call it, but that was that price under that. We have had a company reach out to us for that same area. That's kind of a grant involved in it. It'd be a matching grant though, so our price would go up if we chose to go that route from $85,000 to $125,000. So we're still looking into that. We have another conference call with them next week to check that out. And then the other stuff you see we have pushed out further the next couple of years.
David, you said that grant would cost it to go up, did you say to 125 or 145?
125.
And what would the difference be? I know you said it's a matching grant, but what would that 40,000, how would that affect that whole area?
Some of that we may be able to back out of there if they can use our existing concrete slab, which I think they can. We would have to clean all that off, which is kind of what we did at the playground anyway. It's more of a body weight type. Everything that would go into this works off your body weight. So the exercise equipment is actually geared to each individual's body weight. It's a kind of like a poured-in-place surface, but it may be squares. And the requirement is a 38 by 38, so it will fit in what we have. There'll be a little excess on the outside, but that is turnkey, them doing all of it.
Okay, and what's the time frame for that grant?
Well, it's yearly, so there's actually, if we don't qualify for it this year, we could put in for it next year, depending on what we want to do. I think it probably goes by the fiscal year also.
Okay.
So that workout, that's the original?
As far as I know, it is, yes, sir. I know the surfacing, it hasn't been, I've been here 12, 13 years, and the surfacing has never been, nothing's been done to it other than maintenance on it. So, and we'll have some more information next week. I know it's budget time, so we just talked to him on Friday, and when he found out we were gonna redo it, he wasn't really crazy about where our location was. They kept trying to put it somewhere else, which is really not feasible for us. So when he finally did a Google search on it and pulled it back and found out there was enough space there, then he kind of changed his mind and said that, yeah, it may be doable there. So it's something we'd definitely like to look into. I know there's a price difference there. But early next week, we should have another meeting with him and have more information.
Okay. Any other questions? Bruce?
Okay. Next page of the document, page 7, is the Fire Impact Fee Fund. Chief Beasley?
Yes, sir. As you can see that we've requested equipment for the new firefighters that we've asked for in the budget, the 6 additional personnel for equipment, radios, turnouts, uniforms. But we've also requested that SAFER grant that would cover those costs if we were successful in gaining that grant or was awarded that grant. So we've requested a 67, is that correct? I can't see from here.
67,800, yeah.
67,800 in that line for all of those items together. We've also requested an additional fire inspector next year's budget, and we'll need a vehicle to outfit that individual to have the transportation, and that's estimated at $40,000 per vehicle.
Ronnie, when do we find out about the SAFER grant? As far
I
as
believe the last I spoke with Kamisha, that will be awarded in October.
And then, are we still doing anything, or have we recently, because I haven't seen anything, with like firehouse subs for grants?
No, sir. I think this year would be the first year that we would be eligible for that.
Okay.
I believe that's a 2-year cycle. Is that correct? So we received one my first year here, 2019, 2020, that was applied for before I got here. We received the boat for firehouse. Is that correct? So,
Okay. Just thinking of it for
Yep.
helping with a vehicle, so.
yes, sir.
But y'all still doing the Priuses?
Yes,
Powder
sir.
blue?
Hybrid, battery operated with a crank up wheel for a Prius. Yes, sir.
switching that out for Nick's, right?
No, sir. No, it'll be a very light-duty vehicle, a fleet vehicle, and nothing to be fancy.
Okay.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, page 8 deals with water and sewer fund. So as you can see, there's quite considerably more items here. We do have several items that are remaining in this current fiscal year budget in the sewer department and water department. Hopefully those will be completed. I believe we did receive the new Ford Explorer for the utility mapping last week. So hopefully that, once it gets paid, that'll be done. The forklift, and then the Fergus Road Pump Station, hopefully that'll be done. Michael, do you want to talk about the hydrant painting at all?
So hydrant painting, we have actually been going back and forth with this over the last couple of weeks, working with our engineering consultant. We recently received some information that we feel like we can do it for less than the $150,000. We're still in the early stages of that. We've got to have some further discussions with the contractor. Kyle and I would like to go down and see some of their work in neighboring cities. But we do feel like we can get that done citywide for that dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one thing to point out is, as we've been going through this, we've talked with Jamie and looked at different, or she's looked at different pricing, and we've seen anywhere from, on what he's talking about, $50 to $80 a hydrant to $800 a hydrant.
Yep.
It just totally depends on what you get.
What kind of paint is that?
Well, the product that's $800 a hydrant would be, from what we were told, would be sandblasting and coming back with its anemic paint, which is what is, I'd say, top of the line in that, on the water industry. So, because we've used it on the tanks and everything else. Now, the problem with that is, do we really want to spend, because the cost of that would be about $1.2 million.
1.2, yes, sir.
Dollars. Do we really want to spend that on the hydrants being just painted when fire touches it at least twice a year? Each hydrant probably, at least once. But Danny and them's got to go out and do your hydrant flowing, and by the time you do all this, how much touch-up paint, how much is it really going to last 20 years or something like that? So kind of what we're looking at now is,
Yep.
This company seems to do it. They'll only guarantee it like 5 years, but you're probably going to need to repaint it in 5 years anyway. And plus, we could paint it 4 or 5 times for what the cost would be to go from $50 or $80 a hydrant to $800 a hydrant. So that's kind of what we're looking at, but we do not want to end up with what we've got currently. And I think that's just surface prep. Is right now, if you go to any subdivision, which I can't stand, you go to some of them and you've got paint that's halfway up the bottom that's chipped off. So you see yellow, you'll see red, you'll see just the paint, bare steel. It's just, they look awful in my opinion. So we definitely need to do something to get them done. And I think sandblasting and coming back with a Sherwin-Williams paint
Sherwin-Williams, yep.
that he would guarantee for 5 years, roughly,
Yep.
is about $80 a hydrant, what they're doing in like Spring Hill and Metro.
Yep.
So, Deets had sent some pictures today. I did not like the one that they did a wire brush. It
Yeah, the
looks-
wire brush
it looks
option's
like
not,
junk.
yeah. Sandblasting's the only way to go.
But if you do the sandblast and do that, it's a good looking finish. But again, we may have to do it in 5 years. But I'd rather do that as I had pay $1.2 million and then be fighting back with warranty, because we're going to have those repainted. And plus, I mean, the top shouldn't change colors all the time, but if they do change, here we are painting a very expensive painted hydrant.
Right.
It just don't make sense, in my opinion, to do $1.2 million for a painting project when we could do it for less.
Yep, well, and I agree as well. And I will mention too, speaking of Spring Hill, the contractor that we've been in discussions with, they had high praises for them. They really like the work that they've gotten so far, really like the crews, efficient, so they praised them pretty well.
So what do we think, if you're going with this company, what are you estimating the price would be?
Around 120 to 130, I think would be safe.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
When do you think you might get started on
Well, personally, and I haven't had a chance to discuss this with Kyle yet, we did talk about going out to Spring Hill. We'd like to see their preparation methods, their painting methods, and then bring that, make a decision if we want to move forward. They are currently not doing any more work until next fiscal year in Spring Hill, so around July, August, we'd like to try to plan something to go out. Spring Hill said, come on down, y'all are more than welcome. If we can get in there, if they're working, around that time, then we can make a decision to move forward, if we like what we see.
Okay, so what I will do is I will take this off of the remaining section, since we're not going to get to it during this fiscal year.
Yes.
And it's already listed on the carryover items for next year, so we'll leave it in that space to carry over to next year.
And that's the other thing to point out is the timing, because this company said they could do it in 6 months, every hydrant we had.
Yes, or 6 months to a year
The-
would be a safe number.
Yeah, the other product would be 10 hydrants max a day.
Yep,
And we've
multiple.
got 1,400 hydrants.
1,400, yep,
So you're looking at a long time to get those done.
yep, good point.
He answered my question. I was just curious how many fire hydrants we had.
Yep.
So now this doesn't include the new developments.
No, ma'am, and that's something else we'll be looking into as far as staff, do we want to paint new developments? I personally don't think that there's gonna be a need, they're coming in new hydrants, so obviously that 1,400 will reduce, probably.
Yeah, the only thing we'd look at is, and we'd have to talk with fire, is painting the tops the appropriate color based on the flows.
And I don't know, Nick, but there is a possibility, I was wondering when I seen that picture today, it looks like Spring Hill may just paint their hydrants yellow, and then they don't worry about the bonnet, so I don't know if that's something we may wanna look at or no, but, okay, answer my question.
The fear in that man's eyes when you said that. Okay.
Want to go ahead and knock out the other items I have, or?
Let me quickly talk about the carryover items. These are items that obviously we've already started that will be carried over into next year's budget. You got the service trucks, dump truck, the water break truck, another dump truck for the water department, and then the hydrant painting that we just talked about. So you get into the new capital and one-time request. Obviously, there's several items that have been requested there, so Mike, if you want to go ahead and do the sewer and water, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. So sewer department, we are requesting a 200-foot push camera. That's basically just a camera to look at our service lines and laterals, residential side, or from the city's main up to our first clean out. It basically gives us the ability to look at for blockages, breaks, leaks, et cetera. We have one unit, but it's aging and we need to replace it. That's a small cost of $12,000. The Muffin Monster replacement, it does go back to Fergus Road. So we made a multitude of repairs to Fergus Road this last year. We essentially rebuilt all 3 pumps. We replaced all 3 check valves. We replaced expansion joints on the piping. However, it was several different contractors that performed this work. It wasn't a one-stop shop. We basically did that in-house. We didn't use a consultant, so I feel like we saved thousands of dollars doing that. Essentially, we just subcontracted out ourselves. The Muffin Monsters will be a sole source purchase. There's one vendor. It'll be pretty much replacing in kind what's already there, just worn out mechanical parts. They're essentially massive cutting wheels. They turn, and as solids come into the lift station, they grind them down to reduce the solids so that it can be pumped out into the sewer system.
I was about to ask what in the world a muffin monster is.
That's what it's called. And our goal there's some back and forth. Do we replace them? Do we not? I feel like it will hopefully reduce our cost on having that lift station pumped out, every quarter. Hopefully we can go twice a year. I can't guarantee that. I can't stop what people flush down their toilets, but the goal is to hopefully help with that.
Okay.
Next is the Mini X trailer. That's just basically upsizing our current trailer. Our current trailer is not really sufficient for the weight limits of our Mini X. However, we will continue to use the trailer. We'll just use it for smaller applications, lawnmowers, et cetera. And then last is 2 Ford Maverick pickup trucks for the meter division. That's basically replacing 2 aging vehicles. Both are in excess of 100,000 miles. One's a 2011, one's a 2014. The thought process is the Maverick would be, better fuel efficient, and meter readers do a lot of driving, so that's why we're requesting a smaller truck for that department.
Have we checked to see if they have these on lot anywhere?
They will not have them on lot. I can probably, it'll be difficult. But it's one of those things you have to get in now to get on the list.
That's crazy.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any questions for Michael?
I guess
Okay, if
we're
not-
going back over to Danny now.
Talk about Danny and the water treatment plant.
He did not bring his vest and hat.
You know, the touch a truck thing's coming up, and they're gonna have some new vests and stuff there.
So for this upcoming budget year, we're requesting a new automatic transfer switch replacement for the raw water intake building. This is going to be replacing the existing automatic transfer switch. It's basically a whole brand-new unit. This was found when Eaton came out to the water plant to kind of assess upcoming or necessary, their recommendations for changes and upgrades that we need. The reason this is on this year's budget is this is kind of the next big issue that could cause problems at the water treatment plant, kind of like what happened just around Christmas for the main breaker. This is what feeds the main breaker. So if this ATS goes out, we have no power to the raw water intake building. So what this includes is, it actually does include the work and everything with it. So it might actually be less than the 200,000 that's there. The quote itself was for 118,000. I went up on that because I thought it may need the crane and all of that work to go with it, but I believe it actually might be in that amount. So it also takes, the lead time on this is 42 weeks. So it's something that if we ordered it now, we might get it by the end of the budget year. So it's a pretty big ordeal, or big piece of equipment that if we don't get it and we don't get the process going, could put the water treatment plant in quite the predicament. That could cost a lot more money if we have to do it under an emergency basis. Next is the filter and blow down actuators. That's was something that you guys approved for us last year, which we appreciate. So it's just carrying over. The next is the new coagulant pumps, and that's kind of going to go along with the new SCADA upgrade, but individually from that to upgrade those pumps. Next to the bacteriological sampling stations, what this will allow us to do is avoid any contamination from our bacteriological samples that we have to take 40 a month for, which are required by TDEC. And what these are isolated sampling stations that we can lock, that we can torch instead of taking it off of the hose bibs off someone's home. So if there's bugs or nests or anything like that get involved, that could give us a false positive and cause us, a little bit of an issue, which could lead to a violation, which none of us here want. So it is $85,000 roughly for that. I was talking with Mike about that. That does not include all the installation. He's done a lot of work in checking to see how those would tie into the main, and a lot of them, 60% of them are probably into the road. So it does cost a little bit more than expected than that 85. That's more so just the sampling stations themselves. So that's also something that could be broken up. So if we, depending on the work that would be done in-house by Mike and his guys, we could potentially get maybe 20 at a time is kind of where the discount limit is. So anything 20 and more, it's cheaper. So if that helps, then maybe we can do it that way. Any questions on any of that I've gone over so far before I?
One thing I'll add to those stations is, based on the population, we may go from 40 to 6, is it 60?
60's next.
So the threshold is 40,000 people. So
And we're
if we get good results from the special census, then that's going to put us over 40. That's going to make the sampling station go from 40 to 60. So we'll revise this if needed, or at least put it into next year's budget for the extra 20 or whatever we've got to do.
Yeah, and they're roughly 800 to 1,000, which depend on which one we select, or which one is selected, I should say. Next is online instrumentation for phosphate. Phosphate's used for corrosion control, so that allows us to kind of monitor the chemical that we're putting out into the system. Right now, we don't have any continuous monitoring of that. It is something that is regulated by the state that we have to do distribution samples for every day and that sort of thing. Kind of like the rest of the online instrumentation. Instrumentation, that's a fun word, that we need to monitor as well. Next is the online TOC analyzer. That we have to meet certain requirements of removal. We take those samples every month. What the online analyzer will assist us with at the water treatment plant is being able to kind of adjust our treatment process to see what's working better, what's not working in regards to the coagulant, which could end up in a cost savings with the coagulant if we have to use less, depending on the time of year, based on the amount of TOC removal we have. So it could also have us use more, but that's making sure that we're staying in range and staying compliant with state regulations for the TOC removal. And I believe that's it for this upcoming fiscal year. Would you like me to go into the remainder of it? Okay, I just wanted you to check. The rest of it's also, those are things we've asked for in the past that have remained in those years, or even
That's
kind of
future
pushed up.
planning, but
Yes.
we wait for those conditions.
I just
to deal
wanted
with
to
what's in
make
front of
sure
us.
that I didn't walk away too soon. You know how much I love talking up here, so.
He does love talking.
I do love talking. I do. I will agree with you on that one.
Danny will walk us through the rest of it, Bruce.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Well, I will bow for that one then, because.
Ronnie, that's a low bar you set.
Any
Okay.
questions?
Does any of the ARPA money come into play here with this?
No, like we've stated, or I have stated before, when you look at the ARPA funds, we're getting, let's just say 10 million. So if we use 10 million for some of these other projects, or if we use 10 million for each one of these little things, we still just get $10 million. So, yes, when we use the 10 million for some project that we was going to use, water sewer fund, that you can essentially say that it covered this, but, it's all the same pot of money.
It's like SCADA. We've been talking about upgrading the SCADA system that they use at the water treatment plant. Well, instead of that being here for the one-time requests, it's over here with the ARPA and TDEC pricing.
It's just a way to give us additional funding to do more projects at one time. That's what it boils down to. Okay, so that's it for the capital and one-time request for water and sewer. If you look down your list, you see the fund balance items there for the Public Works and CDS facility. So your totals for water and sewer fund, you have your carryover items at $432,600, your new non-recurring request at $932,000, and then your fund balance items at $15,125,000. So that's the summary for the water and sewer fund capital.
Now, when you say grand total, though, that's not factoring in the carryover, correct?
Correct. That's just the new request, the 932.
Any questions? Okay, Bruce?
So I think the only other item that we have documentation for is the list that Kyle gave us last week for the major projects. There are projects listed in these other funds. If you want us to go over those again, it's up to the board. Obviously, we're not talking about general fund tonight, which is that first page, but you do have the streets, street capital projects. You should have parks in here. And then the water and sewer projects. Well, there's one for stormwater as well. But, so, just depends on how much in-depth the board wants to go into these. Have to deal with how we're going to pay for it, and of course, which projects you want to move forward with as far as setting priorities.
I was pretty vocal last week, so I'll open it up to the board.
I made some notes, but everything's been answered.
That's roughly what they said so far.
All right, I'm gonna throw something out there since everybody's here. If you go to the Parks Capital Project, everybody's aware that we got the TDEC grant for the Brookside Park. Those figures continue to climb. It's very doubtful that our part is gonna come in at $200,000. Our part very well could be quadruple that. Not sure, there's a lot of dirt work that's gonna have to be done over there that wasn't figured in on the front end of this. So if that's the case and our estimates continue to climb, is there at some point we say it's not worth the city putting in $800,000 plus for a neighborhood park?
Well, I say that's a hefty price tag for a small park.
That's kind of what we were thinking also. Reagan Smith is in the process of reconfiguring the original plan to try to do a little layout, and I don't even know if they've got back with TDEC yet on that. Not even sure TDEC would approve moving stuff around once they've already approved the initial plan. Everybody knew it was in a floodplain once we got started. We were under the impression that that really wasn't taken into consideration that much. You could drop $800,000 in this thing on our side, and we're still gonna be in a floodplain.
So have y'all looked at any alternative locations on the west side? Because I know currently there are no parks over there, no public parks, just pretty much is the fire station 43.
We haven't looked at anything other tied to that grant because that grant is site-specific. It was approved on that location and those dimensions that were set out. There probably are some other alternatives that we could do in that area. Other than a neighborhood park, we could still use that as green space. We could put up soccer nets, we could put up benches, picnic tables, maybe even a shelter in that area. But I'm not sure what at this point is gonna be as far as what the end game is on our side.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that park? Ms. Phyllis?
Just so the board knows, in that capital project parks fund, there's approximately $550,000.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that park?
Yeah, and we know, we're not going into this lightly. We know they need something over there, that neighborhood on that side of town. We just don't know what the final cost is gonna be, and at the end of the day, is it worth saying dropping $800,000 on a small pocket park, which you're still gonna be in a floodplain regardless of the outcome?
Does this still flood?
It does, and I think when Gary came in, he ran some new figures on dirt work, and when we got those, we just, we started taking a look back to see what's the best path forward.
So it's Gary to blame. Any more question on the Brookside Park?
I agree with you, something needs to be over there on that side, but, it is what it is at the moment.
And I guess when Reagan Smith comes back with another design, we'd have more of a figure to what it would cost to proceed with that. I definitely don't see us coming in on our side at $200,000.
Okay. Any other questions on the general fund capital for anyone? Well, I'll bring up something for the board as far as that we haven't hit on with, well, we sort of hit on it the first day of this, but when it comes to pay increases, I know it is currently in the budget for a 3% pay increase. One thing I would suggest, at least for my thoughts, I would like with that, I know I've been doing 6%, but looking at adjusting the scale that we use. So people who are basically topped out, that'll adjust them as well, but it would be for all employees and do it at one step, if I'm wording that correctly, but that would ultimately be 6%, if I'm figuring it correctly. Is that right, Bruce? Roughly?
If you wanted to do a 6% increase, we would suggest a 3% step increase, which is a typical increase, and then adjust the entire scale by 3%. So essentially, it would be a 6% increase.
And then that adjusting the scale, though, that again, anyone who's topped out, suddenly they're not topped out anymore.
They would get that scale adjustment.
Correct. And with my thought is, just as it was last year, looking at inflation, we're all seeing that. Whether it's costs for these projects, whether it's at the grocery store, everyone's experiencing that. So, thoughts?
Well, my thought is on it, everybody went to the grocery store, I know with Social Security, this year, or was it this year, last year, we got about an 8% increase. I like to see about a 7% increase for employees. I feel that will put us about even from last year with the inflation. Anything less than 7%, the employees is basically gonna make less this year than they did last year with the high price of food and everything has went up. I know Social Security, can't remember, I believe it was last year, end of last year, Social Security got like around 8%, it was quite a bit. And inflation just ate that up. I mean,
Steve, Carol, what are your thoughts?
I think that our employees are top shelf. I think that 6%, as far as the 3% split, that gives the city time for new business, for new retail, for new commercial, for new sales tax, all of that to kind of catch up and let the city offer some incentive to the employee. But then cool its heels, let stuff come in, let more money come in, and then do the incentive, another one. You know, I talked to a friend of mine the other day, Mr. Bean Man, Donnie Fergus. I had breakfast with him, and he said something to me that was so funny because we were talking, and he said, you know, when I was young, I couldn't always make $1, but if I could make 50 cents, I was all for it. So I think a little bit is better than nothing, and then we got some really good retail coming, some good commercial, and as the city makes money, then the employees will benefit. That way it's not all at once, because like you said, we've got a lot of stuff on this budget.
Ms. Carroll?
I agree with the 6% and like Bruce said, the 3% step and then adjust everybody so nobody's topped out. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Glenn, cold? Okay. We got anything else involving capital?
Kyle, Phyllis, Tanya, anything?
Oh,
So the vehicles and machinery and everything that Michael and other people asked for last year, some of that's still not here. Is that money for that still sitting in the budget?
Yes.
That's part of that carryover that we'll
That's part
put
of the
into next
carryover.
year's budget, yes.
Okay.
and that's a good chance this year the vehicles that we budgeted for this year, we probably ain't gonna get most of them or some of them because, Murfreesboro Forward is in the same shape as, Murfreesboro Toyota. You go up there to buy a new Toyota, they don't have none on the lot. I mean, you got to put a waiting list. I just bought a 23 Toyota Camry, and you just can't walk in and buy a new vehicle. You got to be put on a wait list. You know, and they get a truck in each week, and it may have what you want on it, and it may not. And I'm sure all the dealers is the same way. Murfreesboro Forward is the one that most government gets their vehicles, and you go up there and it looks like they got a full lot of white vehicles, but I don't know. It just ain't, don't seem like nobody's getting anything. When they get it, it's already supposed to go.
There is an order date. I'm not sure when that date is. I don't know if Thomas has found out yet.
Well, yes, sir, I don't know the exact date, but it's only, it used to be for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's just a couple of days. So, I mean, if we know which vehicles we need to get, we can get approval for. If we are able to order those, we should be able to get those in. But there again, with the supply chain, you never know.
But if we don't order them.
Right, if you don't order them, you're not going to get them. That's true.
So as in the past, I'm assuming we can, when we start emailing over our things to the mayor and.
No, do not email me. There's this thing called the Sunshine Law, so you need to communicate through Bruce.
I got it, to Bruce. The department heads are gonna give us their priority.
These are their priorities.
Well, I mean, this is it.
The items in the capital list that we've gone over last week and this week, those are pretty much funded as far as the revenues over expenditures. Now, there may have to be some adjustments, especially when we're talking about making changes to the wage increase and whatnot. So we'll have to look at that again to see exactly where we are on that once that gets calculated into it. But, you know, I think the biggest issues we have to talk about, and we still have one more budget workshop, is our big capital projects and the priorities there, how we're going to pay for them, and what time frame we're going to go over those in the next however many years. So to me, that's the biggest issue that we really need to address.
I would say.
Next week, we also will be dealing with nonprofits. We'll have hopefully presentations from those folks. And so that'll be something else we've got to prioritize and make a decision on.
And if you've not sent over to Miss Tanya, who you want to see, please make sure you do so. Everyone has a copy of all of the different projects. You've got that color-coded, streets for blue, parks for green, water. You've got that whole thing. And so if there is a specific item that you're wanting to see prioritized above another that you did not bring up last Monday or tonight, then please let Bruce and Kyle know. That way they can set that expectation. If you don't communicate and you're not saying what your priorities are, then that's ultimately, it's on you. You're not doing your part of this. So it's all team. And we want to see the city move forward and be prosperous. So, anything else from anybody?
I'd just like to reemphasize on the 7% on employees. We need to keep the employees we got because, especially in the police department, we're kind of at a low level, and with inflation, I think anything less than 7%, the employees is going to make less this year than they did last year. We need to keep at least their head above water.
Well, thankfully, with headcount, we're not underwater. I know we've had some departures, but we've also been hiring. And Andrew mentioned in a most recent meeting that when it comes to retention, it's not necessarily pay, but other items that's driving some of that, so. But, anything else, Bruce?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, we'll see everybody next Monday evening.